Who remembers the yuppie generation? You know, the young deplorables with rich mum and dads, spoilt little brats. You know, like Georgina Rockcliffe, Bradley Rockcliffe, and Adam Brooks, and will end up somehow, and all their transgressions and trespasses and wrongdoings magically just get blown into the wind, and they never face any consequences for anything. No repercussions. They never have to taste the sour juice from the lemon from which they squeezed. Marry into money and then call themselves successful. You uppers that live their entire life off the bank of mum and dad and then blow their inheritance. Have no morals. They do whatever they like, get away with whatever they like, but if you do it, you're a criminal. You know, the coppers' kids who are always stealing shit and they never get caught for it. Like COURT, caught for it. Everything just goes away, magically goes away for them, doesn't it?
Get there. What's the same with being a moral person? It's the same. It's absolutely the same. In fact, it's even more the case.
That's that.
But we can talk about morality. Because, we've almost reached Ramadan. So I think it might be appropriate. Because this is also, I think, something that has been twisted by Western frameworks and the prevalence of Western perspectives all around the world. And obviously misunderstanding something as important as morality and as important as being a moral person, misunderstanding this is absolutely disastrous. Obviously it's disastrous. It's disastrous for the individual. It's disastrous for your relationships, for your families, for your communities, for your nation. And being a moral person doesn't happen as a result of you just believing in morals. You know what I mean? It's not something that simply happens because you have an understanding of what right and wrong are, or what good and bad are, or what righteousness is and what sin is, and so forth. Even if you have a coherent and consistent moral framework.
Before he goes on, I'm going to tell you the Christian version of what he's talking about. He's going to tell you the Islam version. The traditional, real Christian version of it isn't Christianity. It's not religion. It's keeping the commandments and living in Christ. It's keeping your lamp oil full. It's not just it is holding yourself to the standard expected of you by a higher power. Expecting that there will be consequences if you don't. Out of honour. Keeping the commandments is keeping the law, even if it goes against legislation.
Go off of, like in Islam, unlike in the West, even if you have that kind of a very clear framework, a very clear, coherent framework, just being aware of it, just recognizing it and knowing about it, and even agreeing with it intellectually, that does not make you a moral person. That's not how you become. There's nothing automatic about being good. You understand? About being righteous or virtuous or what have you. This is never something that's going to happen automatically. Not as an adult, anyway. Not as an adult. Maybe for children. Now, this is something that you have to build as an adult. Something that you have to become as an adult. It's something that you have to shape. It's something you have to shape and mold and fortify and fashion and reinforce and try to maintain through deliberate, disciplined training and hard work. In Islam, we call this tarbiyah or tazkiyah, moral training, discipline, self-control, self-restraint, self-purification, strengthening your moral self against anything and everything that undermines that. Being a moral person is a project. Understand, it's a project. This is something that you have to constantly and consciously commit yourself to. There's no other way to do it. If you don't do that, then you simply are never going to achieve it. You're never going to achieve it. You're just like someone who goes to the gym. You just go to the gym every once in a while, right? You lift weights sort of sporadically. You do some cardio here and there, You have a salad now and then, but you have no exercise plan. You have no weight loss plan. You have no diet plan or no nutrition plan. It's haphazard. There's no discipline. There's no seriousness to it. There's no commitment. You understand me? You're never going to achieve any sort of meaningful fitness or health results that way. Obviously not. Or you're like someone who tries this or that passive income idea. You create an online shop and you promote it for a few days and then you stop, right? Maybe you bake something and you think about being a caterer. Maybe you make business card templates or what have you, but you don't take it any further than that. You just leave it. Or you take an online course, like say for coding or something like this. You attend a couple of classes maybe, but you never do anything after that. Okay, this is not serious. You're not being serious. You're not serious about increasing your income or changing your career, and you're not serious about becoming an entrepreneur, or whatever the case may be, becoming a fit person or what have you. So you see what I mean? In any other context, you understand the concept of having a plan and sticking to it. In any other context, you understand that what happens if you don't have a plan and stick to it. You understand that nothing will happen if you don't have a plan and you don't stick to it. You're not going to get anywhere. You understand this in other contexts. You understand this in relation to other goals. That you cannot get an outcome. You cannot become this or become that. You cannot become fit. You cannot become materially successful. You cannot become an entrepreneur and so on. Automatically. Just by wanting to live the outcome. You understand? Just by recognizing the benefit of that outcome. Just by thinking that that outcome would be great to achieve someday. This is not going to achieve it. That's not how you're ever going to get there. Well, it's the same with being a moral person. It's the same. It's absolutely the same. In fact, it's even more the case with being a moral person. And obviously, it's immeasurably more important as an outcome that you should try to achieve in your life. Much more important than being fit or being healthy or being an entrepreneur or being rich or what have you. Being moral is far more important. This is more important than wealth. It's more important than fitness. It's more important than anything else, truth be told. But somehow we treat it like morality is either something that you have or you don't have. Being a moral person is either something that you either are a moral person or you're not a moral person. It's not like something that you strive for. It's not someone that you have to work hard to become. As much as you all like to talk about, being on a journey or it's a process and so on, you say those types of things all the time, but the truth of the matter is most of you are wandering. You're not on a journey, not towards a destination, you're just wandering. You have no process. You have no map. You have no blueprint. You just have a series of experiences that you never actually process, that you never actually learn from. It's haphazard. Like I said, it's haphazard. No plan, no clear goal, no steps, no discipline, no commitment, and no progress. And understand, this is what you are trying for. You have to understand, this is what you're trying for in terms of your morality. You're supposed to be pursuing, and what you're supposed to be trying to achieve is progress, not perfection. Progress. Measurable progress. Being better. Even if it's little by little. I'm talking about character, morality, about being measurably, quantifiably better, making progress, real progress. This is a realistic, doable approach to tarbiyah, to moral training, to genuine self-improvement. Being purer, being more truthful, being more decent, being more disciplined, being more honest, being more kind, being more just, being more fair, being less dishonest, less indulgent, less vindictive, less selfish, and so forth. You understand me? Progress, not perfection. But also, we're talking about real progress, not some vague, sort of aimless, I try to be a good person sort of nonsense, or I do the best I can. No, we're talking about genuine changes in behavior, genuine changes in attitude, and changes in demeanor, and changes in actions. In Islam, we understand something called the jihad an-nafs. The internal struggle. The internal struggle. It's an ongoing battle. The fight against our own weaknesses. The fight against our own desires, our own ego, our own impulses, our own appetites, and so forth. And like in any battle, we lose territory and we gain territory. We win and we lose. But we keep struggling. And the truth of the matter is that some of us are fighting relatively mild internal enemies. Alhamdulillah, some people are blessed with that. They're blessed with what you could call, in geopolitical terms, secure borders. You understand? Like if you build upon the metaphor of jihad, the metaphor of battle, in like the real physical world, like in nations and countries and so forth, some nations, some countries are inherently more stable and more secure than others. This is a fact. Almost like an island nation or a huge landmass where you've got mountains all along the periphery. Okay, so some people are blessed with circumstances like that, with naturally secure and stable territories, moral territories, meaning their psyches, their emotions, their mentalities, and their spiritual strength. Some people are blessed with stability, but then there are other people who are facing very powerful internal enemies. Their borders are constantly under attack, constantly under threat. Their territory is not secure or stable at all. There are some people like that. They have to be in continuous struggle, continuous confrontation against those enemies, those urges, those impulses, those desires, those appetites, and so forth. And those appetites and those urges and those desires are very strong. Those invasive thoughts, those fears, those delusions, those temptations, those confusions, and so forth. For some people,
this is brilliant. This is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. There's so much to pull out of this. Let's look at that through the lens of an addict. We live in a sick and twisted society in Australia that is isolated from the outside world, in the sense that we are isolated from the realities of geopolitics and having neighbouring countries on the same land mass. That we have a corrupt system with bad apples that turn the whole box rotten within our political structure and within our within our legal structure, I'll call it, within our constabulary and judiciary and correctional services, within our Department of Inhumane Services. And they feed off of this. They actually profit from this. Now, you think about the police force, which used to be a service, but it's a force now. They've grown themselves into a situation where they have to operate as a profiting business model in order to stay sustainable and viable. If they do not make profit, then they cannot continue to operate with any longevity, because it's such a high maintenance upkeep. And that maintenance itself is inflected by inflation. Through needing those wages, they've turned a service into a career path. And you wonder why there's so much drugs around. Like I've been saying for the longest time, the cops are the dealers. Directly, indirectly, and indiscriminately, and inadvertently. They know where it comes from. The little cadets don't. The little fresh, pimply-faced constables don't. Hell, they don't even know where they came from, half of them. They have no respect for their elders because they've never been held to a higher standard than no standard at all. They've been on a first name basis with their school teachers, who are still kids themselves. They've never left school. They went to school and then went to another school so that they can stay at school, spend their entire life, their entire career at school. And they're supposed to be getting our kids ready for life. How? They don't know anything about life. They've never been outside of school. So they have a school mentality, a school psyche, a school maturity. They're 50-year-old college kids. That's all they are. They're 50-year-old college kids. Nowadays, the 50-year-olds are still kids. A lot of the school teachers my age are still kids. And they're the people that are raising, like, we're spending more time with our kids than what we do. And you wonder why they're fucking sideways. You wonder why kids and school teachers are having affairs. It's a recipe for, it's a recipe for disaster. It's bound to happen. I mean, what else could you expect from that? And they took God completely out of school, so morals are gone. And now they have sex education classes way down into the lower, mid-primary school ages. Jesus. That is so inappropriate. It's funny how I'm looked at as some kind of weirdo fuddy-duddy because there's a whole bunch of stuff that I wouldn't allow my kids to be subjected to at school. I'm like, that's not your job, sorry. Reading, writing, arithmetic, teach them how to teach themselves so that they can further and advance their own education and skill sets as they go through life in things that are actually valuable. All you people that have ended up being tech nerds and coding and shit, look how long coding lasted. 5 minutes. Everyone was coding 10 minutes ago, now no one's coding. Why? Hey, I was doing it for you. So when the new tech jobs come to town and you go in and you set everything up and you spend 3 to 6 months there, cool, you've trained AI now, we're going to have to thin down, we've got to cut jobs, cut costs, we're hemorrhaging money, all the usual excuses. And you end up with what used to have 300 people will be maintained by maybe 10 maintenance people, and they'll be the cream cheese, creme de la creme, cream of the crop, tech nerds that the soulless critters that you can't even have a conversation with because they're scared of their own shadow type of people. Waste of space. People have no morals. Like, seriously, they have no morals. They have no honour, they have no loyalty, they have no dignity, no self-respect. Even there was a time when there was morals and honour amongst thieves, as they call it. A drug dealer wouldn't sell to kids. They would not encourage people to start new habits. When someone was trying to get away from it, they didn't go knocking on their door or sending them text messages going, I've got some good stuff. Like, that was a shit act. That's a shitty thing to do to people. When someone's trying to get their shit together, you let them get their shit together. You don't go chasing them, you don't go pestering them or bothering them. No. Dealing, swapping drugs for stolen property, that's a shit act. Are drugs a shit act? Yeah, well, pretty much. I know. But I would be a hypocrite to judge anyone for it, wouldn't I? So, you do you, boo. You do you in your own home and don't bother anybody else. I don't care. Anyway. if you can't help someone, at least don't do them any harm.
Those are very strong and stronger than what other people experience. So they are inherently unstable in the same way that a country can be inherently unstable. Not because there's anything particularly wrong with them, but because they grapple with trying to protect the borders of their psyches from hostile intruders, internal intruders. And if they give up that struggle, if they give up that jihad and nafs, well, they'll be completely conquered. They'll be completely conquered. They'll be completely subjugated by all of their worst impulses and their worst characteristics. You can say that they're colonized by their own nafs. They're colonized mentally by their nafs, morally by their nafs, and in terms of their character, by their nafs. Until they completely lose their natural self, their righteous self, their goodness. That's when all the territory has been lost, and they're subjugated. But most of us never give that struggle up. It's ongoing for everyone. And like I say, for some people, the struggle is relatively minor. For some, it's just sporadic. But for others, it's constant. It's constant and traumatic and hard fought. But for anyone, in these battles with your nafs, you will take land and you will lose land. Remember, strength and weakness are both relative. You may not be strong or as strong as you think. You've just never faced challenges or threats that actually test the limits of your capacity. So you may not be as strong as you think, and you may not be as weak as you think. You just happen to be facing very powerful challenges and very powerful threats that do test the limits of your capacity. I'm talking about internally, in your psyche, in your soul. You're strong or weak in relation to the strength or the weakness of whatever the challenge is that you're facing. You understand me? You should remember that. You should remember that. So just like with nations, just like with countries, just like with
what he's saying is everyone's problems are great. Nobody really can understand what the other person's going through. You should always encourage them. To not give up. Keep trying. You see him the next day and they're still trying. You're doing good, man. Good on you. Keep it up. Proud of you. The little things. They go a hell of a long way. And that's a moral thing too. Encouragement where it's due. Don't knock them down when they fall over. When they pick themselves back up, say, I knew you'd pick yourself back up. Good on you.
Empires and what have you. It's by turns. You win by turns and you lose by turns. And over the course of your life, hopefully, you take more ground than you lose, moral territory, and hopefully you expand your territory, and hopefully your borders become more secure over time, and hopefully you gain resilience and you gain offensive and defensive capabilities that are greater than your enemies. Greater than your enemies, inshallah. Greater than your internal enemies. You know, I always talk about how the macro level reflects the micro level and vice versa. What plays out on the international stage? What plays out on the international stage mirrors what happens between people. And it even mirrors what happens inside of the heart of an individual person. It's the same battle that's always going on. It's the same interaction that's always going on at all levels. And as long as you're making progress, you're winning. Achieving perfection is not the definition of success in this battle. It's not the definition of winning or victory. If you set that as the definition of success, then you are absolutely setting yourself up to lose. No, progress, just progress. Just progress. Try to hold your moral territory. Try not to lose any. And try to gain more territory. Again, little by little, if needs be. Realistically, methodically, with discipline, with practice, and so forth. And when you make progress, you will always remember what you were like before you made that progress. You understand? Just like a country. A country never forgets that it was occupied. They never forget having been occupied. They never forget having been invaded, having been subjugated and colonized. That haunts you. And you will have people who knew you when you were occupied by your worst self, when you were subjugated, when you were down and out morally. In other words, when you were more immoral than you were moral. You understand? You will remember that, but also other people will remember that, people who knew you. And some people will think that you are still that. There are some people who will think that you can never be anything but that. You understand? But listen, it's hurtful, yes, but listen, if they knew you when you were morally down and out, when you were occupied, when you were controlled by your own worst side, your own worst habits, your own worst characteristics, right? When you were seized and captured by your own worst self, colonized by your own evil. I said your own evil. Because I'm not talking about shaitan. I'm not talking about iblis. I'm not talking about shaitan. You can't put everything on the devil. I'm talking about your own evil. Remember, I'm talking about your own internal enemies, your nefs. Your internal enemy is you. And if they knew you when you were an occupied, colonized, subjugated, dominated lackey for the worst elements of your own self, well, then you and I both know that they will have some very bad memories of you. That's the truth. They'll have bad memories, painful, hurtful memories about you. Things that you did, things that you said, or things that you didn't do, or things that you didn't say that you should have. Wrongs that you have done, pain that you have caused, lies that you told, sins that you committed. And even if you've successfully changed the map, even if you've gained back territory, your own...
Yeah, and even... You got to remember too, most of those people will be the people that rode with you when you was like that. That was your crew. The gang, you know? The bobber boys that you knocked about with. They're the kids that want to drag you back to the naughty park. You're at the good park now, don't tell them where the good park is. Because they'll come to your park and ruin it for everyone. They'll ruin your life again. You have to get away from them and stay away from them. There's also those people that will prey on people like you and keep you down just so that they can be better than somebody. They'll usually be hypocrites. They'll call people druggies while they sell drugs to them. They'll be telling you that I've been off this shit for years, just to find that they weren't at all. They just turned into a cupboard user. Or they just switched drugs. Now they're on the drug that you can legally buy at the bottle shop. But they want to be your friend because, like, you know, there's these people, there's these people, there's these people, and there's these people. And these people will let you come up to there, or these people will let you come up to there, but they don't want you to come up any further because they're not capable of being up any further. And makes them feel like they're at the top of the hill because there's people under them. There's people there. Yeah, and they're no better really than the people down here. These are the people who profit from the people down here. What you need to do, got my own ladder. Don't let anyone else on it. Hold yourself to the highest standard before you hold anybody else to any higher. Don't hold other people to a higher standard than yourself, and hold yourself to a higher standard than anybody else. With moral support and your own morals.
Moral territory, even if you've redrawn the borders of your moral self, and you have successfully driven out the enemy of your worst self and secured your boundaries, even if you've done all of that, you can't change history. That's the unfortunate thing. That's one of the worst parts of all of this. You can repent, but they can't forget. And the truth is they have no obligation to forget. But now that becomes a challenge for them. That becomes a challenge for them. Or for you, or for any of us, when we're talking about other people. You know, people that we have known, or people that we have been hurt by. When we knew those people and they were down and out morally. Then it becomes a challenge for us to try to recognize and acknowledge the reality of what this struggle is. The reality that moral territory is won and is lost, is gained and is taken away. And just because we might have known someone when they were on the losing side of their own battle for their own soul, well, they might be on the winning side now. That's the thing that can happen. Maybe their internal moral territory was once the site of atrocities in the past, the site of massacres of character, massacres of wrongdoing. And again, just like with physical lands, with actual geographic territories that have experienced invasion, have experienced occupation, have experienced colonization and oppression and violence and so forth, genocide, torture and what have you, you know, places where terrible things have happened in this world. Those places can be rebuilt. They can rebuild. They can rejuvenate. They can stabilize. They can prosper. They can succeed and they can thrive no matter what happened in the past. And they have to be allowed to do that. They have to be allowed to do that. And they should be supported when they do that. They should be encouraged when they do that. They should be helped and they should be strengthened when they do that. And the same goes for people. The same goes for individuals. If individuals have...
Now, I ask you. That's a genuine Muslim, right? Sometimes he gets animated. He gets animated on topics that are like... Because you got to also imagine he's part of a study group. They have a study group, which is about them building themselves up to a higher standard, morally, ethically, economically, building a better future for themselves, for everyone, for all. And they do it on social platforms. You just went all butterfly. Now, a lot of what he talks about are based on questions that he gets in emails and arguments that people have on his feeds. So he gets a bit animated and people take it personally. Don't take it personally. If you're taking it personally, it probably means he's striking a chord with you on something that maybe you're secretly one of those people on the inside. And you don't even know it or recognise it. Don't worry, I've watched him a few times. I've gone, check myself a bit. It's pretty weird when a Christian and a Muslim align so well. And we're not supposed to, according to the religion. Remember chicken burning? I'm burning chicken, mate. But does that sound like the stereotypical Muslim that we're being fed? Of course it doesn't. Not even close. I actually had massive respect for this man. And he would tell me off hard. Big time. I probably deserve it.
Actually committed themselves to making progress. You understand me? To actually liberating themselves from the worst in them. Liberating themselves from those internal enemies that we're talking about. When they have a plan, when they have made measurable, quantifiable, observable, real-world progress. And then that becomes, like I say, that becomes our challenge with regards to those people and the challenge of other people with regards to us. Because the truth of the matter is, and we all know it, we have all been the villain in somebody's story. And they may or may not be ever willing to see us as anything other than the villain. They may never see us any other way. Just like we may never be willing to see other people in any other way if we have known them at their worst. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us to never let or to never help shaitan against our brothers and sisters by cursing them or denigrating them when they are morally down and out. Because then you will just make them think that they are destined to stay that way, that they're destined for that they're destined for moral failure, destined for moral poverty. And that's not true of anyone. That's not true of a single person. This is why I'm saying you have to understand what this struggle is, what the nature of this struggle is. It is ongoing. And what someone has been may not be what they are now, and what they are now is not necessarily what they will be. And none of us can fight that battle, and none of us can wage that struggle on anyone else's behalf. And no one can wage that struggle or fight that battle on our behalf. But we can support each other in trying to be better. And we can try to agree, at least, to not convince ourselves and to not convince others of the lie that the worst self, the subjugated self, is who we truly are. No. When we're morally down and out, that is the goodness that we know we have, that is the moral person that we know we can be, being defeated. You understand me? It's not the absence of goodness, it's not the absence of morality or the absence of virtue, it's the defeat of our own goodness, the defeat of our own morality, the defeat of our own virtue, because it wasn't stronger, because it wasn't fortified, because it wasn't guarded or defended or protected well enough. And even if you may have lost multiple battles in the jihad and nafs, it means you have fought multiple battles. You just maybe need better training. Maybe you just need better weapons, you need better defenses, you need better tactics, you need better strategies, and so forth. So inshallah, Middle Nation, we're going to be trying to discuss some of these things during Ramadan. Ways to train yourself, strategies for tarbiyah, strategies for tazkiyah, and so forth. Because not only is this something that we should be doing as Muslims, just as Muslims, it's something we should be doing, but also, as we've talked about recently in relation to Nuruddin Zengi, moral integrity is a political weapon, both defensive and offensive. Piety and righteousness and integrity are extremely powerful, and in our epistemology, you cannot disconnect this. You cannot disconnect this from your politics, from your economics, from your community building, from your organizing. You can't even disconnect it from your analysis of geopolitics, because there is a moral physics that governs the universe. This is a reality, and you cannot be misaligned with that physics and succeed for any length of time, whether you're an individual or whether you're a nation. Practical morality is exactly what makes a civilization beneficial to humanity. And the absence of practical morality is what got us into the miserable situation that we have been in ever since the West ascended to global dominance. And ever since they did, or ever since they have been in the position of global dominance. Well, the understanding of morality has gotten completely tangled. The understanding...
Don't take it personal. Don't take it personal. I keep telling you, don't take it personal unless you fit. If the shoe fits, that shoe fits, then you're probably wearing it, but you can take it off and put a different shoe on. Find a better shoe that fits. I'm not converting to Islam. I don't do religion. I walk the path. Like I say, that's a statement, not an idol. I don't wear it all the time. Sometimes on here, I wear it when I go out. I found actually that other people look at it and it's like it's almost like an amulet that keeps them away. Like, oh, don't talk to him, he's Christian. Yeah, well, probably I don't want to talk to you either, so it works. Okay, I'll give you a tip. If someone's really getting on your nerves, or you're like, I don't like this person, I don't want this person to talk to me, start talking to them about Jesus. They'll run away every time. They're like, they'll be looking for the back door, and as soon as they're looking for the back door, open it for them. Yeah, I'm gonna run anyway, mate. Yeah, cool. Nice talking to you. And they'll be like, hey. It's a good tool. It's a good tool to get away from monitoring and archonic spirits. from those that would do you harm, even inadvertently, not knowing that they're doing you harm. Because the people that they talk to, they may not realise that that person's actually there fishing for information for somebody else. Playing a telephone game. He's generalising. Well, no. It's generalising. Okay, it's generalising when it's a one-on-one conversation and they say, you in the West. He's talking to the West about the West in general. Yes, he's generalising about the West in general, not you personally. I say, unless that shoe fits, you can always take the shoe off and find a better shoe that fits better. That makes sense to you, doesn't it?
I think morality has gotten completely confused. So we're going to talk, inshallah, about building yourself as a moral person. The same way that you might talk about building yourself as a physically fit person. The same way that you might talk about trying to build yourself as an educated person, or as a competent person, or as an entrepreneur, or what have you. Because no, it is not haphazard. It's not based on your feelings or vibes, right? It's not based on vague platitudes. It's not a status that you can achieve regardless of your actions. You can't achieve it regardless of your actions, regardless of your behavior, regardless of whether you practice discipline, whether you practice restraint, whether you commit yourself to a practical code of conduct or not. You can't achieve it regardless of those things. We focus on your deeds, and your deeds not only reflect your internal state, but they affect your internal state. You understand? You can act a certain kind of way because of your psyche, but then once you have acted, then your psyche normalizes the way you acted, and whatever flaws or whatever shortcomings or what have you that had already developed in your psyche that made you act that way, now that gets reinforced and that gets intensified, and then you act worse because your psyche has gotten worse, and then the cycle just becomes a self-perpetuating thing, and then you lose moral ground, and then you become colonized by your worst self. Most of us don't become immoral except little by little. And little by little is how you have to work your way back to being moral again. It's exactly like any of those other things that I mentioned. You don't get morbidly.
He just described absolutely every single addiction known to man, on how it happens, how it can get there, and then how it's hard to get out. Because every time, that little step, it's a little... When you go to the pool and you go down the steps, it's a little bit at a time, isn't it? Ooh, ooh, ooh. Alright? That's how you get there. And everybody keeps saying, no, stay in the pool, the water's great.
Obese overnight. You get morbidly obese little by little. And you're not going to get fit overnight. You have to get fit little by little. You don't go financially bankrupt overnight. One debt piles upon another, onto another, and so forth. Little by little, you lose control of your finances. And you can't clear all of your debts in one fell swoop. You got to pay it back little by little. You have to have a plan, and you have to have practical steps. You have to have practical actions, and you have to have a commitment. A commitment, like I say, to progress. Not to perfection, but to progress. A commitment and a plan for progress. You don't become a moral person just because you know that it's good to be a moral person. That's not how you become one. You don't adhere to morals just because you believe that those morals are good. That's not adherence to morals. That's acknowledgement that morals exist. Adherence means practically, in your deeds, in your behavior, in your habits, and in your decisions. And you're not going to be able to achieve that. You're not going to be able to achieve that adherence overnight. You're not going to be able to achieve any of that without discipline and without a plan, like I say, and without practice and without commitment. It's not just a way that you want to think about yourself. Being a moral person isn't just a way that you want to think about yourself. It has to be a way that you actually are in reality. You understand? If you are an obese, poverty-stricken, physically unwell individual, but you want to think of yourself as a slim, fit, rich, healthy man with a thriving career, or as a business owner or what have you, well, you'd be delusional. And you are just as delusional If you think of yourself as a moral person, when you do not practically adhere to any kind of coherent moral code, and you just act any kind of way that you like, any way that feels good, any way that feels satisfying, and you're one way with one person, another way with another person, and you say this but you do that, and you lie, and you break promises, and you don't keep your word, and you just follow your desires, and you just follow your urges, and you have no self-control, well, you are delusional. You're delusional if you think that you can be like that and still think of yourself as a moral person. No. You can no more be a moral person just because you think it's good to be a moral person than you could be a rich man just because you think it would be nice to be a rich man. No, this is a battle that you're in. This is a battle that we're all in. And every battle needs a plan, and they need their soldiers to be trained. They need their soldiers to be disciplined. And inshallah, that's what we're going to be talking about this Ramadan. This is what we're going to be talking about on Middle Nation. Off and on anyway, for the next few coming weeks, inshallah, bi'idhnillah. Jazakallah khair.
There's an Indian term for that. Inside us there are two wolves fighting a fierce battle. And only one can rule. Which one wins? The one that you feed. And that will be the shadow that you fix to yourself. The one that wins, the other one lives in its shadow. I said one of those wolves is evil and one of them's good. If you keep feeding the evil one will win. And the good one will live in its shadow. It's what they call fixing the shadow. You have to starve the evil one and feed the good one. Make the evil one live in the good wolf's shadow. And then that's called controlled aggression when needed. You have the evil wolf there, but you've got him in check.